Hey Eurovision fans, it's time for another Eurovision Scoreboard update where I look at the interrelationships between all the songs in Eurovision 2024. In this episode we have the addition of San Marino, Croatia and Switzerland. How are they going to mix things up? Let's kiki. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Tom. I'm an Irish Eurovision analyst and you can find all of this stuff on my Eurovision channel. So in case you don't know the Eurovision Scoreboard app, this is an app where you can rate all the songs that are in Eurovision and you can give points to your top 10 and then all of those points are added together and we can get a scoreboard saying how are the entries in Eurovision 2024 doing so far. When a new song is released, your scores are only counted when you rank that new song. So that's how it keeps getting updated. I'm not sponsored by them, I just use their data. Okay, so when we left off from our last episode, Belgium had just joined the party, making quite a big splash, particularly with Ukraine and Slovenia. We're going to use this graph to explain what I'm talking about and also just get a quick update from where we left off. So this graph here was taken on Friday the 23rd of February. That was after the first semi-final of Door but before the second semi-final, and you can see we've got each country and their scores, and then this percentage going from blue is each country's percentage of the total points that are on the board. So right now you can see there's almost 1.5 million points coming from 24,507 people. Those percentages are how much of that gigantic amount of points does each country own. Okay, and then we have this first column, pure percentage points loss, and basically that just looks what percentage of the total points did that country gain or lose. And we actually have a small gain here, France gaining 0.22% of the total points that are available, and that's largely down to a performance that Slimane did on the first semi-final of Door. He did this incredible performance where he stood 2 meters away from the microphone and was singing almost a cappella, and I think a lot of people went on the app and bumped him up a couple of spaces because of that. We can also see that Belgium are continuing to grow as well. More people listening to the song and they're actually moving up. And this is against the normal pattern that when someone joins the app, they come in very high and then they fall, and usually have a big loss in the following video. Belgium doing the opposite, they're actually growing. More people are enjoying this as they listen to it. So that's a really interesting thing to see, Belgium catching up on those top 4 countries. In terms of the losers here, we can see Ukraine losing 0.23 and Norway losing 0.26, the continued effect of Belgium entering the scoreboard. Slovenia continuing to lose as well, minus 0.18. These are only small losses because really nothing new has happened. This is just a small passage of time since the last video. There's been no big new entries yet. Bigger changes are coming up, don't worry. I just wanted to show off the effect that a live performance can have for just getting a little bit of hype about your song, particularly Slimane, who released his song in mid-November. So, you know, he's done pretty good to stay so high in the table considering that the song was released over 3 months ago. Okay, so let's say hello to our first new country, and it is San Marino, Megara singing 1111. I haven't actually done a reaction to this song yet. I'm really behind because I'm just trying to do too many videos right now. National final season is over though, so things are hopefully going to calm down. I'll have a little bit more time. So San Marino entering into the board with 25,828 points, giving them 2.6% of all the points on the app. So let's go and see who did they take those points from. Obviously, when you enter into the table and you're getting points, everybody else is having to move down one spot. If I put San Marino as my 12 points, all 10 acts who were in my top 10 all have to move down. Those in first and second place will lose 2 points, and then everyone from 3rd down to 10th will lose 1 point. So obviously putting someone at the top has a bit of a bigger effect, and we're going to see that later. So those points that San Marino are taking, you can see in this first column, pure percentage points loss. Actually, if you add up that column, it adds up to 2.6, which is the percentage that San Marino gained. So this is just showing where did that 2.6% come from. You can see most of them are minuses, but there's actually a couple of pluses as well. I've also added in a new column for this video, which is estimated points loss. I'm basically just converting that percentage change into a points. I can't compare points between one day and the next on the app because the points update every 15 minutes. The points are constantly changing. That's why it's better to look at the percentage share to see, okay, what percentage does somebody own? So we have a look and see who did San Marino affect. The biggest loss at the top is Ukraine, losing 0.35%, approximately 3,500 points because of San Marino entering. I do think this is a continued effect from Belgium as well, because we've seen this trend now where Ukraine are losing points. Ukraine and Slovenia in particular losing points from Belgium's entry into the list. So I just think that's more continued trend, maybe a little bit from San Marino as well. We can also see a pretty big loss for Luxembourg, and that is something new because Luxembourg weren't losing points when Belgium initially entered. So it could be the effect from Belgium, but yeah, possibly also just Belgium being maybe in a lot of people's 8th, 9th, 10th, and then San Marino coming in 6th or 7th is going to push them down 1 point. So maybe a little bit of a battle there between people who are ranked in the 6th to 10th place spots and Luxembourg taking a hit, losing around 3,500 points, but still keeping their 9th position. We also have a pretty big loss for Finland and Czechia, actually taking the biggest hit out of anybody, losing 0.38, 3,700 points, and they didn't have that many points to begin with. So them losing 3,700 is much, much worse than Ukraine losing 3,700 because Ukraine had a lot more to begin with. We're going to see that later when we look at the relative points loss. So yeah, Czechia affected, you can see that in a female rock act, that overlap. Finland as well, I think just kind of being a little bit more alternative. Meanwhile, we can see someone like Malta losing only 600 points. The overlap between Malta and San Marino just not as large. And now this next column I call relative points loss. So whereas pure points loss looks at how much of the total points does a country own, relative points loss looks more at how many of my points did I lose. So it's much better for looking at countries that didn't have a lot of points to give away in the first place. So it's better for looking at those who are a little bit lower down the scoreboard. And with all things being normal, this should be green going down to red. So what we're looking for is when are those colors out of sync to look at something unusual going on. First thing we can see is Spain doing really, really well. So gaining 3,200 points, increasing their total share of points by 5.6. I honestly don't know why that is. The only thing that I can think of is that maybe this is getting a little bit of virality. I've actually had 3 people contact me this year from outside of my Eurovision bubble talking about Eurovision. All 3 of them have been about Spain. So 2 of them have been from kind of people who would just watch the contest on the night saying, we love this song. I haven't fed it to them or anything. I literally I've got my own Eurovision community now. I leave my other friends out of my Eurovision life. So they've initiated contact with me to tell me that they love Spain's song. And I also had another Spanish friend who's not interested in Eurovision at all. He contacted me to say, have you heard about this song? It's very controversial in Spain. So 3 people contacted me, all 3 about Spain. I'm wondering, is that why it's getting a little bit of traction on the scoreboard? I'm not sure. If you have any theories about why any of these songs are moving up or down, leave me a comment down below and I'll use your theories on my next video. Okay, so continuing looking at this relative scoreboard, we see Belgium increasing their points by 32. It's not huge, but to be good, it's actually pretty good. When a country enters, they've taken up 26,000 points and you've actually gained 32 points. That's actually pretty good. Again, we see Luxembourg lost 8% of the points that they previously had. And then the big reds here are Germany, Finland, and Czechia, all losing around 15% of the points that they had before San Marino arrived. Finland and Czechia, I understand. Germany, I'm not so sure why. Superficially, I can't see what the connection is between San Marino and Germany, but it does seem like there's a little bit of an overlap there. Germany losing almost 2,700 points. So as predicted in my last video, I actually thought that Loredana was going to win and she was going to affect Czechia. Instead, a different rock chick won and she affected Czechia anyway. So poor Czechia, no matter who was going to win, Una Voce or San Marino, they were going to affect poor Aiko. She's got a revamp coming, don't worry, so hopefully she can climb her way up the scoreboard again. At this point in time as well, let's just zoom out and actually look at all these points on the graph, because once you see them all in a bar chart, there is this shelf. So we have the top 5 who are kind of living in their own luxury top 5 bubble. And then we have quite a big drop down to this island where we have France, Slovenia, and Spain kind of living on their own. And then we have another big drop down to everybody else. So we kind of have our top 5 right now. 3 peloton group, is peloton the right phrase, from cycling, who are kind of chasing them, and then we have everybody else further down. This is a pattern that existed in the last video as well, and it's continuing on. Okay, so let's throw another country into the mix, and it's Baby Lasagna singing Rim Tim Taggy Dim. He won Dora on the Sunday night, so I took this a couple of days afterwards. So this is pretty much purely his effect. Obviously some time is passing as well, but we're up to 26,096 people. So this is the biggest poll that I've shown so far. Obviously the more people that we get, the more accurate the poll gets as well. That's just a general rule of polling. And we've got a total of 1,513,572 points. That's a lot of points. So Croatia entered right into second place, having a huge effect on the table. 138,837 points. That is huge, taking up 9.17% of the vote. So again, let's look at this pure points loss column. Where did that 9.17% come from? And we can see which countries contributed to it the most. Now, the first thing you'll notice here is that San Marino is very red. If you've watched this series before, you'll know this happens every single time a country comes in. They tend to go really, really high, and then they sink down lower and lower, because I think people who love the song update the app very quickly. As other people come in, they aren't as excited about the new country, and it starts to sink. So the biggest loser is San Marino, losing almost 1% of the total points, over a third of their total points. Because they're kind of messing up the colors on my graph, I'm actually going to remove San Marino because they're a little bit too red, and we want to see these colors going from green to red, and San Marino is messing it up. So let's remove them. So with San Marino Maroon, and with San Marino Maroon, and with San Marino Maroon, oh my god, San Marino removed, and with San Marino removed, that is incredibly difficult to say, we can see who really is affected by Baby Lasagna entering into second place, and we can see there's a huge amount of red up the top of the table, and that is because he's pushing other countries off of the first place, second place, third place. Keep in mind, when you push someone out of first or second place, they lose 2 points going down one place. If they're in third place and they move down to fourth, then they lose 1, etc. and so forth. Huge effect on Ukraine. You could see they've gone down to 9.11% of the total points now, losing 0.79. That is a huge amount, roughly equivalent to 12,000 points gone to Croatia. A big hit as well for Spain, losing almost 11,500, minus 0.75. Again, that seems to be a reversal of whatever that uptick was on the last slide. I don't know what was happening. So Spain went up for some reason, and now they've gone back down again. The third biggest loser being Slovenia. Again, possibly continued effect from Belgium as well. Belgium really is Raven's nightmare. But pretty much everybody in this top is affected. You can see Italy losing 9,000 points, Lithuania losing 9,000, Norway losing almost 10,000 points. So Baby Lasagna has really kicked a lot of the big hitters off of their throne and taken over in the 1s, 2s, 3rd, 4th place. You can see lower down the scoreboard, it's very green. This is because these countries had less points to give up on the first place, whereas these people at the top, the kind of kings and queens, had a lot more riches that they could lose. Now, one of the surprises here, I actually did a poll on my community tab of my channel asking, who did you think that Croatia entering would affect the most? And the main countries that people said were Estonia, Finland and Czechia, and you can actually see that these 3 countries are 3 of the least affected. So you might say, well, what the hell's going on? Why is that? I have a theory for this. I think that when Baby won Dora on Sunday night, a lot of very enthusiastic Baby Lasagna fans went on and updated their scoreboard. Keep in mind, these are only the scores of people who've updated the app after the new contestants are announced. So if you don't care about Baby Lasagna or you weren't interested in Dora, you're less likely to have updated your app. So I think a lot of Baby Lasagna fans went on, and I think a lot of them also like Finland, no rules, and also like Czechia because it's rocky as well, and also like Estonia because it's alternative. So they're putting Baby Lasagna maybe up top, but they're also updating their scores with Finland and Estonia and Czechia getting points. So this is why I think that those countries are surprisingly green. Let's go to the relative points loss now, which shows how much of a country's own personal points did they give up. And again, normally this is dark green going down to dark red, but you can see the top of the board again is pretty shook. A lot of light greens and ambers from the people at the top of the table having to give up the points. It's a little bit like Robin Hood. He's stealing from the rich. he's not giving to the poor. He's stealing from the rich and he's keeping for himself. Generally following this trend down, and we can actually see Estonia losing a disproportionately small amount of points. They only lost around 4,500, which was 8% of the points that they previously had. We can also see Finland losing 184 points. That is roughly 0.47% of what they had. So they basically lost less than 1% of the points that they had before. So I think that they have lost points, but there's also lots of new fans who've come in. So it's kind of like cancelled each other out. Similar thing with Czechia as well. Meanwhile, we see Latvia and Malta with big losses, losing almost 20% of the points that they had before Baby Lasagna arrived. Yeah, almost 5,000 points each. They didn't have very many points to begin with. This is not nice for Latvia and Malta. So is that good news or bad news for Estonia and Finland? Well, the important thing to remember about this is on the Eurovision scoreboard, you can give points to 10 different countries. So if you like Croatia, but you also like Finland and Estonia, that's great. You can give points to all of them. But when it comes to the actual televote, are the Baby Lasagna fans actually just going to vote for Baby Lasagna 20 times and then forget about Finland and Estonia? So whereas this is good news on the Eurovision scoreboard to bring in those extra fans who are alternative or more rocky, at the end of the day, if they only vote for their number one rock person, so we can see the connection here between these songs. But is that connection going to help or hinder? I think it's going to hinder mostly. Okay, let's throw another country into the mix. And this time it is Switzerland. Their song, The Code, sang by Nemo. And where can you find Nemo? You can find them in 7th place on the Eurovision scoreboard with 46,051 points. That is 6.4% of all the points. So where did that 6.4% of the total points come from? Well, it came from all of their friends who were also already on the scoreboard. And we can see this pure points loss. Again, if you add all this up, it will add up to 6.4, which is what Nemo has. So who has taken the biggest hit? Who is the reddest in this column? And we can see France losing 0.62% of the total points. That is an estimated 4,500 points given from France to Switzerland. I can see the overlap here definitely in a kind of like emotional, very well sung. I like both of them, so I can totally see the connection between France and Switzerland. Also location wise as well, if we have Swiss or French fans on the app, perhaps they are going to be a little bit split. The second biggest loser was Finland, losing 0.6%. And this is potentially the opposite effect to what I described before, where baby fans were coming in and updating the app because they were excited and they're putting Finland high. But now, once Switzerland enters, people need to update their scores once again. And maybe those Baby Lasagna fans are a little bit slower because maybe they're not as excited to update for Nemo as they were for Baby. So because of that, Finland potentially losing a lot of points, 0.6 of the total points. That is around 4,345. A big loss for them because they didn't have that many in the first place. Spain also losing 0.59 of the total points, roughly 4,300. Again, it is this continued trend. I really want to know this Spain thing. It's a real mystery to me. Please tell me, why are Spain losing points and why did they get that big gain in points as well? And then Luxembourg also continued this slight downward trend, maybe just suffering a little bit from being one of the older songs. They've lost 0.57, that's 4,000 points. Nemo not having the same big effect on the top of the scoreboard that we saw with Croatia. We saw with Croatia really a lot of orange up the top, demonstrating that he is unseating people from first, second, third. It does look a little bit more like Nemo is affecting people in the middle of the table. I think that's why Luxembourg are dropping, because I consider them someone who is the lower half of people's top 10s. Everyone who I've seen posting on Twitter their personal top 10s, I see Luxembourg there a lot, but it's like 7th, 6th, 8th, 9th, etc. So I think Nemo's kind of coming in the middle, a lot of 4th and 5th places, and pushed people like Luxembourg, Finland, Czechia, France and Spain down. Let's look at the flip side. Who's less affected? Who's greener? Who hasn't lost a lot of points? And we can see Lithuania not bothered at all. They gained 0.03, which is very small, but it's still a gain, gaining approximately 200 points despite the fact that someone new has entered the table. I love it. Teaming up with Nemo to be a badass team. I do feel like there's a little bit of people who are excited to update Nemo's scores probably have a little bit of a soft spot for Sylvester Belt as well. I do think there's a little bit of a mix here in their backstories and the kind of coolness within the songs. So Lithuania actually jumping up 2 places into second place. Now it's not a huge lead. You can see in this, when the scores I took at this time, only around 1,500 points ahead of Croatia and Ukraine. But still, yeah, great to see a reverse in the momentum for Lithuania. Also interesting to see that Croatia's points drop wasn't huge. So this affected people coming in, being overrated and sinking down. Croatia only lost around 2,500 points. That is not a lot. So showing that this does have a little bit more longevity. And then look at Belgium gaining once again, plus 0.19%, gaining 1,400 points. I do think similar to Sylvester, there's a little bit of an overlap between Nemo fans and Musti fans. This continual slow clawing from Belgium up the rankings, I'm going to show you a comparison between them and Ukraine. So I'm going to show you the last 7 data points that I took. So this is me entering my data into my spreadsheet, and you can see way back when Belgium entered this scoreboard, they had 7.98% of all the points available. Ukraine had 10.5%. So, but we can see that starting to whittle down. So Ukraine losing a little bit each time that time is passing or a new country enters, whereas Belgium dipping a little bit from the entry of Croatia, but otherwise they're kind of slowly climbing up, getting a lot more traction, a lot more people becoming a fan of the song. And if we look at the final data point, there's only 0.8% difference of all the total points available. So you can just see this lead that Ukraine and Italy and the other ones at the top have over Belgium is slowly being broken down. Belgium starting to catch up with everybody else. And if that trend continues, it does look like Belgium will overtake Ukraine maybe in the next week or 2. And who knows, they could potentially start challenging Croatia as well. That momentum hasn't stopped yet. It is growing every time I look at the scoreboard. Okay, now let's look at the relative points loss, which looks at what percentage of a country's own points did they give up. And we can see it's meant to be green to red, and it is largely green to red. This is a more normal distribution of points because they are sitting at 7th, so everybody above them is largely unaffected, very green, only giving up a small amount of their points, whereas everyone below is giving up a larger percentage of the small points that they had. The largest effect here you can see down the bottom, Finland and Czechia, which I already talked about. Could this be that delayed baby lasagna fan effect? We also see Germany, Albania and Moldova, also big losses as well, losing almost a quarter of their points. Again, I think that's because they're in people's 6, 7, 8, 9, and Nemos come in around 5th or 6th and push them down. We can see Malta largely unaffected, only losing 12% of the points. So they're quite yellow where they should probably be red. Poland also doesn't seem to be affected, only losing 7%, around 1,600 points lost. So yeah, Luna fans are not bothered by the entry of Nemo. If we take a step back and look at everyone's points on the line together, that shelf that I talked about where we had the top 5, a shelf down and then the little Peloton island, Switzerland's actually created a little bit of a gap there. They are the messenger between France, Spain, Slovenia and the rest of the pack, just kind of acting as a communicator. We can see that continued progress from Belgium means that they have overtaken Norway and gone into 5th place. Still quite a bit of a gap though between Belgium finally reaching Ukraine at this point in time, around 0.8%. So that's where we're going to leave things for today. There are other countries that have been released, but I can only do so much in one video. I am one person working on my own. So in the next video, we're going to cover the introduction of Cyprus and Netherlands, who entered at the exact same time. So there's going to be a little bit of a guessing who's affecting whom. Then we also had the addition of UK and Austria at the exact same time. And then tonight, I'm filming this on Saturday, we're also going to get Serbia and Iceland. I will do my best if I can to try and get them isolated. So there's going to be 6 new countries entering. Hopefully when I do my next episode, I'll have to see how things go. Okay, so what did you think about all these countries coming in? Do you have any theories for how and why certain countries were affected? Leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Thank you to Anonymous and a different Anonymous for supporting me on Buy Me Coffee. Thank you also to Joan for supporting me on PayPal. If you want to support the channel, I'll leave links to you in the description down below. I am a full-time content creator, so your donations go towards maintaining the channel. And of course, thank you to my patrons all over the world for patronizing the channel. On my Patreon, you can get the original audio and visuals when I get copyrighted. You can be part of our My Eurovision Scoreboard group. You can get some early updates and some early releases of some videos. So go check that out if you're a fan. But of course, thank you so much just for watching and maybe giving a like and maybe sharing the video. And thanks so much for watching. See another Eurovision analysis video very soon. Goodbye. Blah, 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 blah.